Welcome to Debate Combats, where sharp minds meet bold stakes, and tonight we ask a simple question with massive consequences for work beyond borders. Here is the motion, stated plainly. Should governments lean on market competition rather than crafting new global treaties to set fair labor rules in stateless zones like the high seas and future commercial space stations? For clarity, stateless zones mean places with no single national rulebook, where flags, contracts, and incentives do most of the heavy lifting. Our teams bring two powerful lenses. Logic argues for the motion, emotion stands against it, and both promise to keep it tight, clear, and punchy. Logic says competition can raise standards by rewarding safe, well-run operators. Emotion says without binding treaties, exploitation will spread where law is thin. Positions are locked, logic is the affirmative, emotion is the negative, and the clock is already impatient. Logic team, your flaw, lead with your core claim, then tag your partner for evidence and emphasis.
Thank you. The heart of our case is this. When rules travel slowly but technology moves fast, competitive markets, guided by transparent benchmarks and enforceable contracts, deliver fairer pay, safer ships, and better stations faster than treaty talks that take years.
Building on that, we point to industries where competition under clear disclosure and liability rules lifted safety, commercial aviation improved through rival carriers meeting audited standards, and offshore energy operators raised wages and training to win crews in a tight labor market.
Consider incentives. If a space station pays above market, posts incident data, and guarantees evacuation insurance, skilled technicians choose it and rivals must match or lose talent. The race to the top is not a slogan, it is a hiring budget.
Treaties often freeze yesterday's compromises, but competition updates every quarter. And if governments publish a simple global scorecard on pay, rest hours, medical care, and repatriation guarantees, buyers and workers reward the leaders and punish the laggards.
When standards are measurable and public, insurers cut premiums for good actors, lenders lower capital costs, and operators have a financial reason to reduce injuries and fatigue. Money follows safety.
In stateless zones, enforcement is hard, but it is easier to deny docking rights, procurement access, and insurance discounts to low-scoring firms than to police a sprawling treaty with weak teeth.
Technology makes this practical now. Satellite-tracked hours, verified crew lists, automated payroll logs, and independent audits can be published in real time, turning compliance into a visible competitive edge.
We are not saying no law, we are saying smart baseline law plus competitive pressure beats one more sprawling treaty, set a minimal floor, then let transparent rivalry pull standards higher.
In short, use the market's speed, signal, and selection power to raise labor standards where jurisdiction is foggy. Vote affirmative.
Thank you, crisp case and clean structure, now emotion. The floor is yours for the challenge.
We oppose, because markets do not grow a conscience by themselves. Without binding treaties, the cheapest option often wins, and at sea or in orbit, cheap can mean tired crews, silent injuries, and lives weighed against line items.
Look at the record. Flags of convenience did not appear from kindness, they appeared to dodge higher standards. And abandoned crews on distant docks are not theories. They are people who waited months for back pay and a ticket home.
Transparency does not save a worker who has no leverage. A glossy scorecard means nothing if the contractor can blacklist dissent, or if a recruiter holds a debt over a family far away.
Treaties are slow, yes, but they create a shared floor that no competitor can slide under. They make repatriation, medical care, and rest limits obligations, not marketing claims.
In space, evacuation is not a perk, it is survival if something goes wrong. A worker cannot pick a new employer mid-orbit. Choices only matter before launch, and that is when strong universal rules must already exist.
Insurance discounts follow risk models, and risk models can be wrong. When they miss, workers pay with their bodies, not with a spreadsheet.
Docking bans and procurement blacklists sound tough, but politics bends, and powerful firms find friendly ports. A treaty with inspections and penalties, agreed by many states, keeps doors from quietly swinging open.
Justice should not depend on who can shout the loudest price signal. It should rest on a promise that every human who works in a hard place is protected the same way, no matter the logo on the paycheck.
Vote negative, because fair work in lawless places needs law first, not a race disguised as compassion.
Affirmative. The floor returns to you. Press your advantage with a focused strike.
Competition backed by open metrics turns fair work from a promise into a price signal, and price signals move faster than committees.
Negative. Your reply channel is open. Hold the line with a clean defense.
A price signal does not stop a recruiter from trapping a desperate family with debt, so without shared law, speed simply scales harm.
Negative. You may now advance with a single spear point.
When profit chases silence, whistleblowers vanish, which is why only binding, inspectable rules with penalties give a lone worker a real voice.
Affirmative. Answer that push and keep it tight.
Give workers portable rights in contracts, real-time audit trails, and the power to switch employers between voyages, and watch bad actors starve for talent.
Negative. 2 voices now, one to lead and one to drive the nails.
Lead point here. Switching employers is a fantasy when your passport is locked in a drawer on a rolling deck or a sealed station module.
To hammer it in, we have seen crew lists forged, pay withheld, and complaint lines rerouted, so inspection authority across states is not a luxury, it is the lock on the door.
Time. Negative. Yield the channel. Affirmative. Take it with a paired advance.
The lead case is simple. Governments should publish a universal labor score and tie port access, launch slots, and insurance multipliers to it, letting competition punish cheats without waiting for a grand treaty to crawl across decades.
To reinforce, digital ledgers of hours, repatriation bonds, medical evacuation coverage, and independent incident feeds create a live scoreboard that investors, buyers, and crews can actually use.
Hold. Affirmative. That is the mark. Negative. Your turn to parry with 2 specialists.
Answer here. A scoreboard without subpoena power is a billboard for lies, because the worst firms will game the inputs and bury the bodies of data.
And since questions cut, how do you audit a private module in orbit when the operator owns the cameras, the logs, and the ride home?
Affirmative. Return fire with 2, one to answer, one to press the soft spots.
Direct answer, you condition insurance, orbital traffic rights, and port services on third-party telemetry, independent crew interviews, and automatic escrow for wages. And the moment a firm blocks access, it loses privileges.
Soft spot exposed. Your model assumes inspectors never face pressure, yet treaties are only as strong as the slowest signatory and the friendliest port, which is why modular, revocable market levers bite sooner.
Judges, give us a pulse check before we open the next front.
I lean affirmative for now because the scorecard leverage feels agile and concrete, but their case needs clearer safeguards against data fraud. While negative is right to center human vulnerability, yet risks assuming treaties can reach everywhere at once. So both teams keep pushing specifics and keep your humanity visible.
I currently side with negative, because stories of debt and abandonment ring true, though I want sharper mechanisms than treaty slogans. An affirmative has verve and tempo but sometimes treats people like variables, so bring me proofs with teeth and poetry with steel.
Affirmative holds a slight edge on practicality by tying rights to access and finance, whereas negative is right about enforcement gaps but remains vague on execution speed, so tighten your remedies and keep this disciplined.
Round 2 begins. New angles, please. Negative, take the first swing.
Here is the new line. Without a treaty floor, firms will outsource risk to layered subcontractors and flags, leaving workers in a fog where no single contract covers the worst day.
Affirmative, your shield.
You pierce that fog by requiring a prime operator to carry joint liability for every subcontracted hour, which investors enforce by charging more for fragmented chains.
Affirmative, you may also press with a solo thrust.
Competition among primes to advertise 0 unpaid hours, 0 confiscated passports, and guaranteed evacuation seats will force supply chains to clean up or lose access to profitable routes.
Negative, square up with a single block.
Promises without jurisdiction become postcards, and on the worst day, a worker needs an independent officer who can board, inspect, and order a flight home.
Affirmative, bring a duo and drive this into policy steel.
Lead angle. Regulators do not need a new treaty to deny docking, refueling, or spectrum access to firms that fail surprise third-party crew checks and wage escrow audits.
Support angle. Lenders can require that escrow plus medical evacuation insurance as loan covenants, and competitors will brag about meeting them weekly, not annually.
Clamp there. Affirmative, negative. 2 voices for your countercharge.
Lead push. Denial powers exist today, and yet we still see crews begging for food on rusted hulls, which means discretion sleeps when commerce smiles.
To pin it, only a shared treaty baseline lets small states say no without fear of being undercut, because they can point to the same rulebook and the same penalties.
Hold, negative, affirmative, 2 for a composed defense, 1 to answer, 1 to ask hard questions.
Answer first, tie national powers together with interoperable blacklists, automated wage escrow verification, and insurer-backed evacuation guarantees, and you turn discretion into a switch that flips the same way in every major port.
Now the question, if treaties solve discretion, why did past ones leave abandoned crews waiting months while signatures gathered dust? And why should workers trust a process that matures slower than orbits?
Negative, close this sequence with 2 defenders, 1 to reply, 1 to reveal a weakness.
Reply here, the reason crews waited is precisely because the floor was partial, so the answer is to deepen mutual inspection rights and sanctions, so no port becomes a loophole.
Weakness revealed. If your scoreboard can be spoofed and your leverage depends on private auditors, a single corrupt firm can buy silence cheaper than safety.
Affirmative, a clean path back to you for expanded offense.
We fix spoofing with cross-verified telemetry, randomize crew exit interviews at ports, tamper evident wage ledgers, and a rule that any data blockage triggers automatic suspension from insurance pools and launch manifests.
Negative, a precision defense in 1 stroke.
Telemetry and interviews still require access, and access still requires power that only coordinated states can grant and defend.
Affirmative, 1 more blade on attack.
Grant access by linking it to things firms value daily, low port fees, faster customs, refuel priority, and spectrum scheduling, and you will see cooperation bloom where lectures fail.
Negative, brace with 1 shield.
Perks fade when a desperate operator faces bankruptcy, because in that corner, cutting safety beats waiting for a discount.
Affirmative, return to paired formation for a forward press.
Then we make cutting safety more expensive than compliance by baking injury costs into financing and making evacuation coverage a precondition to transact.
And we publicize weekly compliance ratings so buyers, crewing agencies, and even families can steer decisions toward the safest employers.
Negative, pair up for a last push in this stretch.
Lead point. Families cannot steer choices when recruiters hold debts and passports, which is why universal enforceable bans on confiscation must bind regardless of the sales pitch.
Support point, and until that ban is treaty-backed, the worst actors will keep their drawers locked and their ledgers neat.
Affirmative, 2 for a firm defense to close the loop.
Answer first, we can outlaw confiscation domestically and condition international access on verified compliance, making the global system care about your local law.
Challenge second. If your treaty cannot land inspectors in a sealed module or a stormy harbor in time, will you accept layered market levers that bite this quarter while your signatures gather?
Negative, 2 defenders to settle this passage with clarity.
Response, we accept layered tools but insist on a shared floor that cannot be bargained away by a hungry port or a flashy rating.
Exposure, your plan still trusts private audits over public duty, which history teaches is a bet workers too often lose.
Affirmative, a closing micro-thrust before we reset clocks.
We are not replacing duty, we are accelerating it by making every day expensive for abusers, and every week rewarding for guardians of dignity.
Negative, 1 crisp reply to keep the heat balanced.
Dignity priced like a commodity still needs a court that says no, not a market that says maybe.
Affirmative, your last solo note in this movement.
Courts work best when cases are few, and the fastest way to reduce cases is to make cheating unprofitable before the sirens start.
Negative, a final single shield as we approach the bell.
Profit will always find a corner, which is why workers need a map that has no corners at all.
Affirmative, a measured solo to answer that image.
If the map is not finished, you still use a compass, and here the compass is transparent competition tied to powers governments already hold.
Negative, 1 last defense to keep parity.
A compass without a destination can still walk you in circles, which is what happens when every port and platform sets its own idea of fair.
Affirmative, a final paired cadence to lock your model in place.
Destination set. Publish one cross-border score, attach real privileges to it, and let firms race to surpass the floor rather than sink under it.
Cadence kept. Every inspection passed lowers costs tomorrow. Every violation spikes costs today. And workers feel that difference in their pay, rest, and safety.
Negative. Paired coder to answer and reveal any last soft seams.
Answer. When fear meets hunger, no score moves a trapped worker. Only a guaranteed right enforced by many flags does.
Reveal. If your scheme fails in one weak port or a single permissive station, the bad actors will migrate there overnight.
Affirmative. Paired guard to finish this passage with resolve.
Guard 1. Link every major port and registry to the same access rules so a weak outpost cannot become a haven without paying crushing costs.
Guard 2. Make worker-controlled wallets and repatriation bonds unlock automatically, which stops a desperate manager from holding a human as collateral.
Negative. Paired defense to seal your perspective for now.
Defense 1. Automatic systems still need a sovereign to stop the ship or ground the capsule when someone cheats.
Defense 2. And only a treaty gives small states the backing to make that stop without being bullied or bribed.
Affirmative. One last needlepoint before we cut to the next segment.
Then let us run both tracks. A fast market spine with real pain for cheaters, and a public law flaw that catches what speed misses.
Negative. One last clear note to balance the ledger.
We will meet you on the floor, because without it, the spine you praise bends toward the cheapest risk.
Judges will weigh all this soon, but for now, teams, hydrate your logic and your courage, because the next crossfire will ask for names, numbers, and non-negotiables. Before we close the circle, are there unresolved angles, or a final spark you want to throw on the fire?
Yes, I want clarity on whether you accept joint liability for subcontractors as a non-negotiable baseline tied to access and finance.
We accept joint liability as a starting plank, but it must be secured by a treaty that grants boarding, inspection, and penalties across borders.
If that plank exists, will you also accept automatic suspension from insurance pools when telemetry or wage ledgers go dark?
Suspension matters, yet the power to verify darkness still requires public authority, or a firm can simply turn the lights off and sell a story.
Then say it plainly. You want a floor that governments maintain while we use market levers to push the ceiling higher every week.
We want a floor so solid that no ceiling collapse crushes a worker, because incentives without guardrails make pretty posters and empty wallets.
Strong words, but give me a mechanic. If a port sees a forged crew list today, what happens before the ship leaves tonight?
An empowered officer boards, confiscates the forgery, orders wage escrow, and if refused, the ship stays, not tomorrow, tonight.
Good, now let us weld that to a universal digital ledger so the next port knows instantly, then the market keeps that ship waiting until it cleans up.
The weld holds only if the ledger is governed by public duty, not private dashboards with pretty colors.
Open free debate, alternating turns, hit hard and keep it lawful.
Competition cannot be the villain when the villain is opacity, so we slam the door on opacity with third-party telemetry, escrow, and revocable access.
Opacity thrives when a frightened worker cannot speak, so we fund independent ombuds crews with boarding rights and hotline power.
Fund them with fines from violations and discounts for clean operators. And you create a flywheel that pays for more inspections as safety improves.
Fines come late when evidence is hidden, which is why we demand surprise inspections with multilingual staff and immediate medical checks.
Surprise inspections pair perfectly with our live score, because every clean pass becomes a public badge that lures talent and money.
Badges mean little to a mother who cannot feed her kids, while she waits for back pay that vanishes into corporate fog.
That fog lifts when wages sit in escrow and release automatically based on verified hours, not on a manager's smile.
Escrow helps, but corrupt brokers still trap workers with debt, which is why recruitment fees must be banned and punished beyond a slap.
Ban the fees, blacklist the brokers, and tie visas to worker-controlled wallets so debt chains snap instead of tightening.
Blacklists only bite when no port offers a quiet exception. Hence the treaty scaffold we keep asking you to respect.
Respect granted, but speed demanded, because your scaffold is a blueprint, while our levers are cranes already on site.
Cranes without foundations topple, and we refuse to build in a way that lets the wind of profit set the rules.
Stay sharp, keep alternating, and do not repeat yourselves.
Every day a worker spends safe instead of scared is a victory, which is why weekly audits and immediate penalties beat decade-long signatures.
Every day without a shared promise is a gamble, and we do not gamble with lungs, eyes, and bones.
Shared promise, yes, but also shared dashboards that a 17-year-old apprentice can read before signing on.
A dashboard did not save the cook who slept on a cold floor while his passport stayed locked in a drawer.
The drawer opens when ports demand a scanned confirmation of passport possession by the worker at embarkation and at random checks.
Ports already miss contraband, and you want them to manage labor justice as a side gig, which is why a dedicated labor inspectorate is essential.
Then create that inspectorate and feed it with our data fire hose so it sees red flags before a ship drops anchor.
Data without trust is noise, and trust comes from law that stands taller than quarterly targets.
Trust also comes from predictable pain for cheaters, like losing refuel priority, berths, and spectrum slots for 30 days.
Predictable pain is good, but predictable rights are better, because dignity does not wait on scheduling software.
Turn the dial up, but keep it precise.
Precision is this. If an operator blocks an audit, they lose insurance immediately, and their ships or stations become uneconomic overnight.
An authority is this. An inspector can board with police support, seize wage records, and issue on-the-spot orders with force if needed.
Force matters, yet force without data is blind, so combine both and you get a system that acts fast and aims true.
Aiming true means centering the worker, not the investor, and that is what treaties were built to do after centuries of abuse.
Time to pivot to closings affirmative. Deliver your final case with 2 voices.
Here is the fact pattern. Stateless zones make jurisdiction slow. Market levers are fast, so government should publish universal labor scores, mandate wage escrow and evacuation insurance, link port, launch and spectrum access to verified data, and use automatic penalties when data or access is blocked.
To the judges, you asked for teeth and tempo. Our plan gives both by turning safety into lower capital costs, by making violations expensive immediately, and by pairing these levers with any present or future treaty so the floor hardens while the ceiling keeps rising.
Negative. 2 voices for your final word.
The facts say workers are still abandoned, passports are still seized, and crews still fear speaking, so we need a binding inspectable floor that follows the ship, reaches the station, and does not depend on a rating to be real.
To the judges, choose the team that centers human power over market mood, because only a shared law with inspectors, penalties, and solidarity lets the smallest port and the bravest worker stand tall.
Judges, give us your verdicts and your reasons, and keep your praise generous.
I vote affirmative because their architecture fuses measurable levers with existing state powers, creating speed without abandoning duty, and they answered fraud risks with escrow triggers, third-party telemetry, and automatic suspensions that feel workable today.
I vote negative because the stories of debt, fear, and forged lists demand a moral center that markets cannot supply. And I want a world where an inspector with shared authority can act first and argue later while a worker walks free.
I vote affirmative since tying access and finance to verified labor data offers immediate consequences, and when paired with current treaties it avoids the long lag that so often swallows justice.
By 2 to 1, the winner is the logic team, and your blueprint of fast levers plus a public floor carries the night.
We are grateful, and we will keep pushing for tools that make dignity cheaper to keep than to break.
Thank you, and we invite regulators and unions to stress test these levers, so the next scorecard becomes a shield, not a slogan.
We accept the result, and we will keep fighting to make that shield welded to law so no one can pry it loose.
Well played, and may every scoreboard be backed by a door that inspectors can open when a whisper becomes a cry.
To both teams and our judges, thank you for the fire, the focus, and the courage to argue for people who work where maps fade. To everyone who stayed with us to the last word, we are grateful for your time, your curiosity, and your conscience. If you enjoyed tonight, please like the video, subscribe to Debate Combats, and drop a thoughtful comment for the teams below. If you want to support our work, use the QR code at the bottom right or the link in the description to donate and keep these debates rolling. In the description, you will also find links to completely different series we produce, so explore those worlds next and tell us what you think. This is Debate Combat signing off for now. Take care of each other and meet us here next time for another clash worth your attention.